guest host, Mr. J. Haston.
There's been a murder.
Yes, I know the city like a lover. Good or bad, it's hard to love another that I found. This is no mean time, no mean city. City life is strange. You take your share of the good times and bad times. It's the only life I've ever seen. This town is so mean.
Hello, my name is Jay Haston. Firstly, I'd like to thank David for letting me host this show. I watched David's video on narcissism and it really caught my attention with the kind of work I do, the awareness I raise, especially. Narcissism plays a big role in what I do, and that is ACEs, adverse childhood experience, and raising the awareness of them, and I'll get to that. David's story touched me and I was more than happy to come on here, and even with his Taggart theme, there's been a murder, there's been a murder. Now, in this case, that's actually true. That was the catalyst for my childhood trauma and a lot of the stuff that I went through. First, let me explain to you what ACEs are for those who don't know. ACEs are adverse childhood experiences, and these are traumatic events that happen in a child's life, and the more that happens, then the more damage it does to that child. And growing up, if it isn't intervened, if it isn't seen to by a therapist, if it isn't, then it can lead to all sorts of health conditions and health problems. I myself am a walking statistic of adverse childhood experiences. I want to start 12 years ago now. I was 30. At 40 you stop counting how old you get, or you lose count. At 30, my stepfather passed away in front of me. We got told in January he had cancer and it was terminal, and he had till Easter at the very latest. He passed in April and Easter. I spent a lot of time with him, caring for him and looking after him, and that was probably when I got my closest with him, and I was there when he took his last breath. It brought back a flood of memories from childhood, from what happened to my father. I don't want to trigger anybody. It's a Macbeth story. It was unfortunate, and it's you know, I don't want to open old wounds in any way, but it has played a big part in me. It led to me walking into a petrol station and trying to blow myself up, ending up being taken by the police, and they had to walk me in front of the police car because they couldn't get me in it, because I was in so much of a state that I was throwing the two policemen around. This was in my younger days, clearly. And they took me to my mum's, and then we went to the hospital, and after telling them what had happened and what I'd done, which would have blown up half of the village that I currently live in, they sent me home. Now, I'd been going to the doctors as soon as I turned 16 and I could go to the doctors without my parents. I did. and I didn't speak out about a lot of stuff. I just told them I was having problems sleeping, I was stressed, depressed, and I just kept getting antidepressants and sleeping tablets and all sorts of other things. I got in trouble with the courts after I left the army, and was what I would say now, and why I fight for a trauma-informed society and justice system, is the judge was a bit hard on me at 17, 18 years old, and left me with a mark that will not leave my record for one mistake. It hasn't held me back with regards to coaching kids football and things like that. I just have to explain myself, and it was a one-off thing. But the fact that that's on my record, it means I can't join the police, or could never have joined the police. I could not go back into the army. The justice system played a big part in ending up who I became. After that, I decided the world was against me, and I went on a mission of self-destruct. I was having problems sleeping. I was having problems with hyperactiveness. I turned to substances, anything that could keep me awake and keep the nightmares and the flashbacks away. And I got myself into a lot of situations where I could have been killed or really badly hurt. I was fortunate enough that none of that happened, but still, nonetheless, it was a path that there was only one end to, and that was the petrol station and self-destruct, because I did not like the person who I had become. I did not like who I was. I did not like being a bad guy. I didn't know who I was. I had no idea who I was. Me and my partner Angela, we suffered 18 miscarriages between our oldest boy and our oldest girl. There's a 9-year gap, and we suffered 18 miscarriages, and it emasculated me. It really emasculated me. I you know, after our childhood, then getting bullied at school, I did not feel like a man, and I made a lot of silly mistakes again, and I hurt a lot of people trying to prove that I was a man. And it was just this, it's the stigma that surrounds mental health. It's the stigma that surrounds mental health. It's it really is. Guys we're brought up in this society where men are supposed to be strong, look after their family, and not show any sign of weakness. And it's that stigma, it's that attitude that people have about men, which has got Scotland, like, once again, the suicide capital of the world. That's a shocking statistic, that men in Scotland would rather end their lives than speak out, as I was going to do. I've lost friends. I've lost 2 friends to suicide. I've lost a cousin and possibly another cousin, and you know, I know plenty of people who have lost people to suicide as well. So in Scotland, we've got this suicide problem, we've got this substance abuse problem, and no one, they keep on trying to address these 2 problems, substance abuse and suicide. 25 years ago, Vincent Felici done a paper on trauma. Nadine Burke-Harris picked it up and started the ACEs, the Science ACEs movement, which basically built on work that Bowlby, Harley and Ainsworth had done with children and attachment bonds. Basically, to put it in the picture, they proved that a child being taken away from its mother just for 5 minutes can cause dramatic effects on that child's development. So you can imagine, if anybody's been through any of the 10 ACEs, which are sexual, physical and emotional abuse, emotional and physical neglect, loss and murder of a parent, substance abuse in the family, mental health in the family, violence in the family, domestic violence, and mental health problems in the family. If a children is subjected to 4 of these, it dramatically increases problems for depression and suicide. If they experience 7 of them between the ages of 0 and 18, then the stats are really scary. 40 times more likely to commit suicide. That is a scary statistic. The problem we've got in Scotland is one of the biggest charities who offer therapy for men is only 1 in 13. 13% of the clientele are men. So that in itself tells its story. Pretty much 1 in 10 are men. We've got to encourage more men to speak out. We have to encourage more men to speak out. And I was so passionate about ACEs after learning that was what was the cause of all my problems. I ended up in a therapist's office 6 years ago, and they sent me to a group therapy session. It was the first NHS sanctioned group therapy session called Beyond Trauma. And I didn't want to go, I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to go. I was just like, man, I didn't want to sit with a bunch of guys and sit and talk about my feelings. But I went, and it was the best thing I ever done. Because sitting in there with the guys, we became brothers. You know, I finally felt like I belonged. I finally felt like I wasn't alone. I finally felt like I wasn't the only person who felt that way. A person who felt like their mind felt like a shattered jigsaw. A person who felt like, you know, they had to act like a man, who took panic attacks, who didn't know how to control their emotions. I finally found out that I wasn't the only one, and that alone had a power in it. It had a power in it that made me go home, and I done a video. I said it in my last video. The next again day, I looked at it and thought, oh no, what have I done? But the response from that video has been so amazing. It created. What happened was that when the group ended, I ended up going back into a depression again straight away, because there was nothing in my area. There was nothing in West Lothian. There was no men's support groups. So I was speaking with my therapist, and I told her, you know, there was none, and she pretty much said to me, she says, just do it yourself. A suicide charity backed us. However, it soon became clear that we were in the aim of prevention, and they were in the aim of supporting families with suicide. So the ideologies were different. So we parted ways, and my local community trust backed me, and Men Matter. And then we soon realised that, you know, some of these guys coming along have got real problems, and they're finally talking out. We need to get a bit of professional help. So Wellbeing Scotland, one of the most reputable charities in the world probably for dealing with adverse childhood experiences and early intervention and adult survivors of trauma, I gave up my therapist because she loved the idea so much as well, and I wanted her to help so many other men and not just myself. So I sacrificed my therapist, and she came on board, and Wellbeing Scotland now support the Men Matter project in West Lothian, and it is backed by the West Caldon Harbour Community Trust. If anybody wants to know, and this actually helped create a counselling service in the community. It helped collaborate, just through talking with people, it helped collaborate and highlight just how big the need was for men to speak out in a safe place, and highlighted just how bad the mental health problem was in this area. We are fortunate enough that we're pretty good in West Lothian. Well, I'm proud to be from West Lothian. It's ahead of the game in so many areas on ACEs. So that all led me to the Wave Trust, and they asked me to be an ambassador. They liked my videos, they liked the events I held, they liked the way I was passionate about adverse childhood experiences and raising awareness, and I have gone from ambassador to the lead project manager for West Lothian. Now, the Wave Trust's ambition is to reduce adverse childhood experiences by 70% by the year 2030. Now, it is a big target, and it isn't set 100% because you're never going to get everybody, but we need to do something drastic, and change in society always takes something radical and drastic. It really does. And what Wave are doing is we've got the majority of MP backing. We've had positive talks with my local council. The Isle of Wight are doing great stuff. This is a mission that can really be achieved with the help of all of you. All you have to do is go to www.wavetrust.org, check it out, throw your support behind it. There's a logo on my page, Ace Awareness, on Facebook. You know, share it, put it as your profile picture. You know, I do this for my children, I do this for my grandchildren, I do this for your children, I do this for the children of the children to come. I really do. I really do believe that a trauma-informed society, early intervention and a trauma-informed court system are the way to solve a lot of problems in society, especially substance abuse and suicide as well. There's a big correlation there. Now, I don't want to take up too much of your time as a host. It's been a privilege to be a host. What I've said about Wave, about the mission to reduce child abuse basically by 70% by the year 2030, I will leave it on a quote, and the quote is from Marcus Aurelius, and it says, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after. The truth never harmed anyone." The truth is this: the NSPCC have had an increase of 80% in calls about child abuse during COVID. The suicide stats are through the roof. The drug death stats are through the roof. That's the truth. We can change this by treating it at childhood. It is easier to repair a broken child than it is to repair a broken man or woman. That is a fact. I'll leave it on my hashtag speak out, don't check out. Thanks for having me on the show, David. Please keep up the great work.